What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back at my hometown of La Jolla. Gorgeous place here, beautiful scenery. But I'm here today to discuss with you guys why you shouldn't ride a motorcycle unless you are prepared to do these 5 things or adhere to these 5 things. Because I think they are very, very important. After riding a motorcycle for an entire year, I can definitely tell you without a shadow of a doubt that these are very, very important things that probably a lot of people overlook. But I wanted to reinforce that because I want to start a brand new series for people who are learning how to ride a motorcycle from scratch. And this episode is going to kickstart things off. And the episodes that are going to come after this are going to be episodes where I teach you guys how to ride a motorcycle from scratch, from all of the controls that the motorcycle has, to shifting, to riding on the street, to doing it safely, to progressing and becoming more skillful as you progress. Now, the manner in which I teach is going to be very comprehensive, and I want you guys to stick around for every single episode that I create because they will build on every single episode before it. So today's episode, the topics are going to be a riding budget, because when you're starting to ride a motorcycle from scratch, you have to start out with a budget. We talk about the budget. We also talk about riding gear and why it's important. And as part of your budget, it's important that you get the right gear to start out with. And then you're gonna have to choose the right bike, because obviously you can't just go to any bike and start from scratch, because you're gonna get into trouble, you're gonna get into issues, and if you drop the bike or crash or hurt yourself, you don't want to do it in something super fast and expensive. And then we're gonna talk about rider psychology as well as education, because there's so much involved with riding a motorcycle. It's not like getting behind a car that has a shell over it, airbags and all that stuff that's going to protect you in case you get into a small little fender bender. You are outside of the elements in this thing, and if you get into an accident, there's serious repercussions, and there's serious amount of damage that can not only happen to you but to other people as well. So these are the things that we're going to be talking about in this episode. Make sure to give this video a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more coming. Alright guys, let's get going. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about, and we're going to break this up into 2 parts, is going to be budget, the right bike, as well as riding gear, because those 2 comprise of your budget initially. There's more involved in the budget process, but I'm going to make this pretty simple for the first episode in this series. Now the budget, that's going to be the most important thing, so let's talk about that. Depending on how old you are, how much you can afford, and everything else. I'm not really sure what your age is, I'm not really sure what your status is, how much money you make, etc., etc. But a good baseline to start out with is anywhere between $4,000 to $5,000 as a budget to learn how to ride a motorcycle. This will cover not only your MSF course, because that's going to be absolutely necessary. You should take your foundational courses, and that's going to be part of the budget. And it's going to also cover your gear. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they just set their entire budget aside just for a motorcycle. And here's why it's a bad idea. If you set your budget aside for that shiny new bling and you do purchase it, you're going to forget about your gear, and that's not going to be on your mind. So therefore, safety is not on your mind, and that's not part of your concern. You're going to set up your budget to also include modifications. That's also wrong, because you shouldn't be thinking about modifications if you're just learning how to ride a motorcycle. Focus instead on getting the right gear, number 1, and focus instead on getting the right bike. That's what your budget should be based off of on. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that your budget is $5,000. And I think that's a perfect budget for a first-time motorcyclist to get on the road and have fun at the same time, because I guarantee you, no matter what bike you have or get, you're gonna have fun. My suggestion to you would be to buy a motorcycle that is a 3 to 4 year old motorcycle. Now, a 3 to 4 year old motorcycle, such as, I'm just gonna give you a couple of starter bikes. I hate that word starter bike, because it makes it sound like it's not good or it's not fast enough or whatever, but whatever, it is what it is. So a good motorcycle to start out with would be a Yamaha R3. Fantastic bike, upright position, very sporty. You can track it, you can have a lot of fun, and it's not too intimidating. That motorcycle can be had for about $2,500 to $3,000 used. My suggestion is to find one with low mileage, under 10,000, and 3 to 4 years old if you can find one for about $3,000, and I'm sure you can. So once you get your motorcycle for $3,000, the additional $2,000 is going to be used up for your gear. The gear that you're going to get should be top spec gear. I don't care if your friends are telling you that you need a textile jacket. I don't care if they're telling you that that helmet looks cool. The helmet that you should be getting is a Snell certified helmet. And the reason why you should get a Snell certified helmet is because you should be doing at least 2 to 3 track day events in your first year of riding a motorcycle. And of course, you should continue the track day events for as long as you can. I love track day events. They're a whole lot of fun. And I think everybody should do them because not only does it increase your skill, but it also prevents you from becoming a street Rossi. And as we already know, street Rossis can get into a lot of trouble. More on track day events on a future episode. If you want to check out some of my track day events, I'll link them on this video in the top description. So make sure you go check those out if you want to see what my track day was like. Just so you know, I did my first track day event 5 days after getting my M1 license. That's how dedicated I am. And then I went to my first big track day event, which was like a 2-mile long track day, and I pinned the throttle out of every single exit. That was at Auto Club Speedway. I think that was like a month or two after getting my M1 license. So yeah, whatever I'm telling you guys is whatever I'm currently doing or have done for myself. I'm not telling you to do anything I didn't do for myself, just so you guys know. So back to the gear I was talking about. As you can tell in my videos, if you've ever seen any of my videos, and I hope you have, but if it's your first time checking out this video and you've never seen any of my other videos, I've only been riding for a year now, but I've ridden about 25-30 different motorcycles, and I've done in excess of 15 to 20,000 miles. Yes, you heard correctly. What's up, man? You heard correctly. So I got plenty of experience under my belt. A lot of people have been riding for 4 or 5 years, but they only have 5,000 miles under their belt. And that doesn't really mean much, my friends. Experience is not time. Experience is mileage, if you want to put that into context. And in that aspect, I have a lot of experience. And on top of that, I've done about 9 to 10 courses. So education-wise, I've been there. Experience-wise, in terms of mileage, I've been there. Track day events, I've been there. So I'm pretty qualified to discuss this topic. But like I mentioned in my other videos, I'm not an expert, I'm not an instructor, and I'm not being paid by anybody. I'm simply passing on the torch, because that torch is meant to be passed along. And I think motorcycling in general is just such a pleasurable hobby to have. It can also be very dangerous, and this is why I want to talk to you about the right gear. So speaking of gear, a couple of months after I started riding a motorcycle, I got into my first accident, and you will too, trust me. Eventually, we all fall. There are 2 types of riders, my friends. Those that have fallen and those that will eventually fall. And so you will fit into one of those categories sooner or later. And gear is absolutely important to have. If you've been watching any of my videos, you see that I am ADGAT all the time. No matter where I'm going, no matter if it's hot, no matter if it's cold, I am ADGAT. I wear my boots. They're $300 Dainese boots that go all the way up my ankle. I wear racing gloves to protect not only my wrist, but also my little pinky and my fingers and everything else, and it's helped out in my accident, and it will help you out as well. I wear riding jeans from Dainese. I wear this big, thick, heavy jacket that has CE level 2 protection, and I also wear a $700 Shoei RF 1200 helmet that not only protects my head, but it also protects my hearing, because it's one of the most quiet helmets ever. And it's also Snell rated, so I could take it to the track and I don't have to have multiple helmets. I could just have one helmet and I'm good to go. My riding jeans were about $200, including the CE level 2 protection that I added for the hips, as well as the knees. I got $300 gloves on. So now you get to see what I'm talking about here. You can go cheaper. You can go way cheaper. You can get textile everything. You can get like $40 gloves. You can get a pair of $70 pair of boots. But in the event of an accident in your first year, it's going to cost you a lot more in pain and suffering than it will in buying the right gear the first time around. Yeah, so you can have a $5,000 budget. $3,000 is going to be your bike, and $2,000 is going to be your budget for your gear. But you will appreciate this, and you will thank me for it later on. So now let's talk a little bit about the bike, the kind of bike that you're going to get. Now there's going to be a lot of talk on the internet about the right kind of bike you should get and all that stuff. I think I already made a video about that on the 600 class bikes, if you can handle it or not. Kind of a clickbaity title, but I think if you watch that video, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and then this video is going to make a lot more sense. So I definitely suggest you watch that. I'll link it as well to this video. The bike that you should be buying as your first bike should be a 400 class motorcycle, because for a lot of different reasons. Number one, the throttle response on those motorcycles, they're very forgiving, they're not very snatchy, they're very soft, and easy to control. Like big bikes like this, 765 cc bikes, 120 horsepower, the throttle response is very snatchy, and it's very responsive. So stuff like this is something that I don't recommend for a first-time rider. Not only that, but this bike weighs 420 pounds wet, and I would suggest that someone who's starting out from scratch gets anything anywhere between a 320 pound wet motorcycle to close to 400, like an R3. Like an R3 is a perfect bike to start out with, because throttle response is very soft, very forgiving. It's also very smooth. It's got a little bit play on the throttle to help you ease into it and get you familiar very quickly with riding a motorcycle, and it's also upright. One of the things that you're going to face when you're riding a motorcycle for the first time is that you're going to use muscles that you've never used before, and you're going to have aches and pains everywhere. So if you want to be a street Rossi from the get-go and get yourself one of those bikes like an R6 or something super aggressive, similar to this bike like a ZX6R or whatever, like most people do, street Rossis here and there, you know, you're just asking for trouble, because later on you're just not going to learn as well and as effectively as you would if you were to get yourself a smaller displacement motorcycle. These smaller displacement motorcycles are often made fun of by people, because people are always saying, the number one thing people always say, oh, you're going to get bored of it. You're going to get bored of it, and you're going to want more power, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think they're mostly talking from their ego, and they're not talking in terms of learning the correct way. Look at anything for that matter. Let's talk about video games. A dumb thing like video games, okay? When you're playing a video game from scratch, you don't know the controls, you don't know anything. Let's just say, for instance, Forza. You're playing Forza for the first time. If you put it in the hardest setting, you're going to crash everywhere. You're going to want to overtake people, and you're going to end up in last place, because you're not playing the game with skills, okay? When you're playing Forza from scratch in the campaign setting, what do? They give you the slowest cars there is, such as the Mazda 3 that we just passed at the moment, and that's the same thing with bikes. You shouldn't get one of those expensive leader bikes when you first start out. The people that do aren't obviously watching videos like this, and they really don't care too much about safety, because if they did, they would start out on something a lot smaller. They're mostly doing it to stroke their ego and to impress other people. And you know, they might have a big desire to go fast, but there's a time and place for everything, and it should be done on a gradual basis. If you want to make your motorcycle riding journey last a lifetime, like I hope you are, then what's the rush? Like, the bikes aren't going anywhere, but your motorcycle license as well as your health may. So do things the proper way. Set aside a good budget, get yourself a good bike to start out with. Learn progressively, learn in stages. I always like to do things the methodical way. The methodical way requires a lot of patience, And if you have patience, I think you're way ahead of most people, because the reason why a lot of people do things the wrong way, because they don't have patience. They rather get the biggest bike possible and set aside most of the budget for the bike rather than the gear and the education. So I suggest you start out the right way, do things the methodical way, do things progressively, and I think you'll be way ahead of the pack. And I think you can enjoy riding a motorcycle for the rest of your life. And which brings me to my last point: rider psychology. In your riding career, in your riding journey, you're going to meet a lot of people, and they're going to tell you, oh, I don't ride anymore because the roads are way too dangerous, and people are out to get you, and people are not looking where they're going, this and that. To an extent, it kind of is true, especially nowadays, because everybody's on their cell phones. But there are things that you can do to mitigate those type of things. But we're going to get into all that stuff in the next few episodes to come. Right now, I'm just giving you guys a little preview of what's to come when you're learning how to ride a motorcycle from the start. The most important things, as I mentioned, is first and foremost, you get yourself the right gear, because if you get the right gear, not only will it protect you, but it will also give you the confidence to ride a motorcycle. Trust me, you need the right gear. You're going to learn the hard way if you don't. Just being honest with you and being 100% candid. Check this out. Well, alrighty then. Man, look how pretty this is. Whew. Yeah, this is pretty. Pretty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another episode. The videos that are going to come after this are going to be videos that will teach you how to ride a motorcycle. This is basically the foundation on getting the right gear, getting the right bike, rider psychology, your education, and everything else that we talked about. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a like if you can, and also subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be more of this kind of material coming along. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.